Good afternoon. Welcome to Scale. My name is Anthony Chow. I am a software developer. My employer does not endorse nor sponsor me for my open source work, so I'm not listing who my employer is. I am on Twitter. GitHub, you probably don't find much. My objective for 2016 is that I will have more presence on GitHub so that I'll be able to contribute more or do some work on different projects. And I also blog. The blog is for me to pick up. I am on a journey to the cloud. I read a lot of things, and every day when I read something I think is interesting, I blog about it. The reason is that when I write about things, I know more detail about all those things. So it helps me and helps other people. And why do I submit a talk on contributing to OpenStack? Actually, one time me and my wife went to Starbucks. So she went to get the drink, I sat down. When she came back, she said, "Oh, you know what? Today the drink is free." Then, okay, I said, "Who paid for it?" "I don't know." She said, the cashier said someone paid for us already. Okay, so we enjoyed the drink, go home, went home, and then in the afternoon and evening, when our daughter came back home, we said, "Oh, you know what? Today we have a strange experience. We went to Starbucks and it's free." And my daughter said, "So did you pay for the one behind you?" Me and look at my wife and said, "Huh? What is that?" "Oh, they're supposed to pay for the one behind you. This is called pay forward." And this is exactly what I'm trying to do here. I learned something, I'm now trying to pay forward, and then when you learn something, and this is one reason I like the Linux community and the open source community is that everyone contributes. Later on, if you pick up something, you contribute, you write a proposal, I'll come to a session and I learn from you. So let's start. Why do I want to contribute to OpenStack? If you read the title of this session, you will probably think about contributing to OpenStack. Is this some of the reasons that I listed that you are thinking about contributing to OpenStack? I hope this is, actually, I have the pointer. I should use that. This is the classic example of not testing out the equipment. But being in the Linux community for a long time, I have a backup system. Let me bring up the backup system. So when I'm doing this, what are some of the reasons? Why do you want to contribute to OpenStack? What do you think it is important to you? Obviously, if you come to this session, you will think this is something useful for you. Is there something listed here? You might be wondering, why is this? Let me get this out real quick. Sorry about that. Positive. Why would this picture is in this slide? Is it applicable? Actually, this is the reason why I contribute. This one doesn't work. My backup system also doesn't work. But anyway. But what do you see in this picture? You recognize Linux, Docker, even about Go? Go is very popular. I think Docker is written in Go. What I see in this picture, there are two things. They are very happy. All the characters, they are very happy. And there's also food. If you look at my site, you know I like to eat. These two things is what I'm trying to pursue in my career. I want a happy environment to work on. And also, I want to bring food for my family. So the reason I contribute to OpenStack is eventually I will be able to get a job in the cloud. And I hope today we'll be able to see if there are some barriers we can go over and try to see if you can start or you're not afraid of contributing to OpenStack. I think every one of you know what OpenStack is, so I don't need to go through. But there are two things I need to point out. OpenStack is 99.5% Python based. As of now, I still am not able to find what is the 0.5% written on. I know it's mostly Python. Most of the code we use is Python, but what are the rest? You go to Twitter or you go to the social media, you will see, oh, it is not 100% written in Python. So if you can find out what the rest is written on, let me know also. So contributing to OpenStack, I think knowing Python is one of the big requirements. And the other one that is important for us to know is that it is a biannual release cycle. If you are an operator, you don't really care about the release cycle, although you just need to one stable build or one stable release, then you'll be able to deploy that in your environment. But this biannual release cycle is important if you want to contribute. The reason is that when you look at a bug, if you try to find a bug to fix, this release cycle may affect if your fix will be merged into the mainstream. One time, how many software developers we have here? You know about release cycles. Release manager will say, oh, release time is next week. Although, you can say, my feature is very good, it's very useful, but is it safe? I'm not sure, I cannot 100% say. Then the release manager will tell you, don't check it in. This is the same thing, because this is a biannual release cycle. OpenStack is released twice a year, so you have a special window to work on the bugs. This is something we need to be aware of. This is, I wish I have the pointer, but this is something we need to know about OpenStack is that before it is using a model called incubation and integrated. If you look at the picture itself, it was the older model. You have the core, you have the integrated system. What integrated means is that they will test your fix in the integrated with other features, other services as one. For incubated, the source code is not stored in GitHub. It is stored in Stack Forge. Until the technical committee decides that this feature is going into the integrated, then it will not be in GitHub. This poses a big problem is that people tend to only contribute to the integrated projects and not the other one. So it is not helping the community. So that's why they decided to call something called a big tent. Just like we are all under a big tent, and also all the products is being tagged, and they are now being hosted in GitHub also. I have a link here. Today in the slide I will have a different URLs put it on the slide so that we can have future references. The slide, I will put it on SlideShare, and if you look at scale, they should post it also. I think this is helpful if you can go back. Let's take a look at some of the projects. These are currently the OpenStack projects. There's a whole bunch, and sometimes every release they have new ones. So not actually, I think Chef is one thing, maybe it's not written in Python. Maybe if you contribute to Chef of OpenStack, then you don't need to know Python, you just know Chef. And there's also I know Ansible. Rackspace is heavy on using Ansible to deploy a cloud. So knowing Ansible is also a good way to contribute. And this I18N, this is for translation. If you know other languages, translation is also a good way to contribute. But we'll talk about it later on. So we'll be able to find what are the current OpenStack projects. Do you feel this way with OpenStack? Have you ever worked with OpenStack? I think it is kind of a complicated system, and one reason why OpenStack is not heavily deployed is that it is not that easy to use. Although the timeline moves on, people are doing different distributions. HP is doing some kind of, what is that called? A turnkey system where you buy just one hardware. Ubuntu has one system too, where you buy one hardware, it's all integrated in, and then you can deploy it from there. But it's getting better. But sometimes if you feel like this may be a hindrance of why we do not contribute to OpenStack. I find this interesting it's because I bought things at IKEA also, and sometimes when I get home it's not that easy to. So if you look at the picture, it looks easy, but if you actually try to put the two things together, it might not be that simple. Okay, so I have to ask you this question: why what is holding you back from contributing to OpenStack? Any reason that I have not listed here? Doesn't matter. I hope after today we'll be able to, whatever barrier you have, it will be taken away, and just look at this slide. Whatever is impossible becomes I am possible. I hope you'll be able to get over some of the barrier. Is it some barriers you are encountering? Because this session is trying to overcome the barrier. If it is not listed here, share with the audience, and maybe we can try to overcome that barrier also together.
That slide sums it up for me.
Oh, okay. So let's try to go over the process and see if that will help you. I don't claim to be an OpenStack expert. The reason of I'm still learning. But the objective of this session is that if we can overcome the barrier and you start contributing to OpenStack, I meet my objective. So let's move on. First of all, at least, what can we work on in OpenStack? There are many things we can work on OpenStack, but in the context for this particular presentation, we'll concentrate on how to make coding changes and documentation changes. In OpenStack, documentation changes is also considered as code changes, in the sense that it goes through the same testing procedures. You have to write a commit message, you have to check it in, and then go through the Jenkins gated system, and then before you can be merged. Anyone contribute to other open source projects? They use pull requests. This is very different. They don't use pull requests on GitHub. If someone do not know how most open source project does, is that there is in GitHub, you will clone it to your repo, and then you clone it to your local machine. You make a change to your GitHub account, and then you do a pull request, and they will merge whatever in. But in OpenStack, it doesn't work that way. You don't submit a pull request. You will just submit it for Jenkins for review. We'll go through that later on. But you will go through a code review and also a unit test system before they will merge it for you. And this is also a good link on how we can contribute. Like I said, there is testing. Testing is very important too, but I'm not sure if this is something you want to do. Testing, because there's also bugs that someone report a bug, you want to call something called a triad. I know I didn't say the word quite right. The triad process is that you test out the bug to reproduce it so that people can work on the fix, and to prove that indeed this is a bug. So this is something we can learn. If you know other languages, you can do the translation. I know in China, in Japan, and also in Korea, they use heavily on OpenStack, and if we can translate the documentation into the respective languages, it would be useful also. If you want to see what we can do, it's that you go to that link. You don't need to go through it here today. Before we choose what to do, there are a few things that we must do, is to create this account. You have to create an account and Launchpad. You have to join the OpenStack Foundation as an individual contributor. You have to sign the license agreement, and you should also, this Garrick is a system that you have to create an account also. And then obviously on your local machine, there are two things that we need to do, is to install Git and Git review. In fact, on this machine, I do not have this installed yet. Maybe it's a good time for me to do sudo get. I am mostly a Ubuntu user. I don't know much about Fedora CentOS. Get install Git. It's a very simple process, and it's pretty quick. They do have a fast network. I think the network here is faster than the one that I have at home. Git review is another thing that we need to install on the local system. If you want to contribute, these are the two things you must have. Of course, you need to have the Python, and the one that we will go through it later on. Let's see. slideshow from current. This two URL describe about this process very well. So I hope if you have time and I don't think you will get stuck, but in case you do, this one from semantic.com have all the screen print that talks about which field you need to fill in. It talks about the whole process, and then this is like if you go to Launchpad to create an account, these are the things you need to fill in. It goes through the whole process. I don't think you guys will have problem with this, but this is put into the slides just for reference. Current slide. So how do we find bugs, or how do we find things to work on? They have a bug system. For the bug system, again, this is a very important URL that we need to know. In the bug system, it talks about they have different status, and they have the priority. It's being a critical, high, medium, or low. Of course, if you have a low priority bug, and it is close to release date, most likely they will not merge it into the build. And then the status is something we need to take a look when we find a bug in the bug system, is that we have to pay attention to the status. And this triage is the word I'm trying to say, is that people is trying to repeat the test process and to see if that is indeed a bug. So, but how do we find a bug? Not here, this one. This is where we try to find a bug. This is all the OpenStack bugs. It's listed in bugslaunchpad.net. Well, of all this, which one is suitable for me to look at? Am I going to go through all this and try to find a bug? Well, this is one thing, is that we can go to the advanced search. This will limit the possibility. Well, status, for me, if I want to choose a bug, I would not try to put a new bug, because when a new bug is reported, it might not really a bug. So let status settle down first. At least the confirm is very good that we need to search on, because if it's confirmed to be a bug, then this is something that we should choose to work on. And of course, in progress means someone's already working on. Unless you want to work with the other person, it might not be a good fix. Fix committed, of course, we don't want to search for that because it's already fix is committed. For incomplete with respond, that depends on how you want to find a bug. Sometimes there are incomplete response. And if you can take the initiative and follow up and fill in the problem, that will also help. So it depends on what type of problems you are trying to find, then these two may or may not be useful for us. And for the assignee, for me, I will choose nobody, because that means that bug has not been picked up by someone or being assigned to anyone is working on. Although that might not be a problem too. What I find is that some of the bugs that they are assigned to somebody, and then later on when you go back to the log, it said, oh, the person is inactive for half a year already. Even though it's assigned, so you can still pick it up to work on. And this is some of you can fine tune the search. So let's see if we pick this, how we can find some bugs. So many of them. Let me go back and then do a search. Then the limits still, we'll be able to find almost 3,000 results. Then again, it's difficult. It's how do we find a bug to work on? One thing good about is that in finding a bug for OpenStack, there is something labeled as a low-hanging fruit. And these are being tagged as a problem that should be suitable for the first-time committer to work on. There in the mailing list, there was a talk to say, oh, how about take away the low-hanging fruit and tag the bug as suitable for first-time committer. But I was on the mailing list, and then I reply and say, oh, this will not be good because I have submitted my first bug, then I don't qualify to be a first-time committer. But still, I am a casual committer for OpenStack. I don't work on the very detail. So low-hanging fruit is still important to me, so I hope they will not take. But if you go and search with this tag, then this is something I would suggest this is good for first-time committer. These are the bugs that is labeled as a low-hanging fruit. That means they should be very easy to fix. And I recommend doing the search with this tag. So if you just try to find something, wow, they have so many problems for fuel. Then this is one way we can find out a bug, what is a good bug that we can work on. If you find a bug, what do you do? Maybe you can, for me, I am a more cautious person. I would not immediately assign the bug to myself. And so we go back to the slide. This is what I will do. Let's see. Let me find. There must be some problem with LibOffice. You should be able to see the slide. Finding something to do. Another good way is that in the open source community, IRC is your friend. See, it's slideshow. I'm not sure why it's not letting me get the full slide. Maybe for the whole presentation, we have to live with this kind of a format. But IRC is a good way. There are two things about IRC. Let's jump to this, and I'm not sure if you have IRC client in your workstation. If not, I'll use this web-based web chat. Freenode.org, I forgot, on .net. Say freenode.net. This is how we log in. Everywhere I use this. Which channel? I make a mistake before I was going to OpenStack. It is not a very good channel for developers. Actually, developer.dev is a good channel. Mountains, this one. Did I miss anyone? I am not, but it's not easy to see. Select all this. This one, this one? Let's see. One more? Did I select all? It's only two? Let's see. Yes, I'm not a robot. I am not a robot. Yes, I am. See, this is how we log in the IRC. There are two things about IRC. This is you can ask questions about IRC. And also, different committees, they do not hold the meetings at on this channel, but they have individual. Let's say if you want to contribute to Neutron, they have weekly meetings. I think they're trying to go with the bi-weekly meetings too, because there are two different time zones. People can attend different meetings. But this is where they discuss what to check in. And if you are new to or high scale, so someone is logging into IRC too. It's one way that I can ping that person and is this someone in our audience? Hi. Good, thank you for logging in. Then I ping him. This is someone, if you want to contact someone. Let's say if the bug is being assigned to him and I want to work on it, or I want to ask questions, then I will say ping him, and then if he is online, and some people, they have a IRC proxy. They will appear to be online, but it's not there. They will answer you later on. So you have to be patient, and then you have to find out whatever project you want to contribute to, what is the best time the developers go to IRC and talk. Then you have to adjust to that time and talk to them. So if you, let's say, Then I can ask him if I can work on that bug, and then the conversation will just go on, and then eventually I'll say, some people are I would say, people in OpenStack, I have that on one of the slides, people are very friendly to first-time committer for some reason. So you just don't worry about asking the wrong thing, and then you just talk, and then actually for me, I was very fortunate. For my first bug, I check in is a documentation bug. I was on IRC channel, I forgot which channel I was on, and then saying, I'm a first timer, some blah, 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 just try to introduce myself. And then all of a sudden, a guy asked me, I think it's a guy, I don't even know it's a woman or a man, but he asked me, oh, do you mind working on documentation bug? I said, oh, no, anything is good. Then he gave me a bug number, and I assigned it to myself. You know what that bug is? It's take out 2 white spaces. That is the bug. See, actually, contributing to OpenStack is not that difficult. See, for me, I'm lucky. My first bug to fix is take away the 2 spaces, and then I run, but it's not that simple. We'll go through it later. Even though it's taking out 2 spaces, it still takes me more than 1 week before my fix got merged into the mainstream master. But anyway, this is something, if you want to contribute to OpenStack, you should master IRC and then use it as a tool to find bugs and to work with, because OpenStack is a collaboration of resources to work on. So if you talk to more people, you make your presence. In those individual, let's say Neutron networking, they have the weekly meeting. If you attend, you just say hi. That meeting is being logged to somewhere. I forgot where IRC will log it, but your presence is being logged in the minutes, so people know that you are there. And then if you ask questions that you will make yourself known, people will know who you are, and then, oh, such and such is here again asking questions. They will not say you are asking stupid questions. At least they will not say it in IRC. But they will say, oh, this guy is very serious about contributing to OpenStack, that he will help you out, they will talk to you. So this is something we should be aware of. And this is your friend trying to find a bug. Let's go back to the slide. And of course, there's mailing list. I know what. Let me quit. Oh, now still no. Won't let me quit. This is something I don't like. See, I'm a software developer. I don't have a customer-facing job. Talking in front of audience is still not comfortable for me, but so forgive me if I look clumsy or is not as the presentation is not as smooth. But at least my objective today again is that if there is any hindrance or barrier to contributing OpenStack, let's see if we can, through this session, we can try to overcome it. Let's move on. There's also the mailing list. I have the URL here that you can go, and this is a lot of good discussion. It may not be bug related, but they are good discussion about the project. They talk about the directions of the project, what is good, what is not good. People like this, they want this feature to be heading this way and that direction. This is very very good, but then bear in mind, I think better not to use your work email address to sign up for the mailing list. Just use one dedicated, some Yahoo or Gmail mailing list, so that every day you will not be going over hundreds of emails. And then there's also the Ask OpenStack. I personally do not use this much. I don't know, but of course you can ask questions about OpenStack and this channel. Let's move on. This is something. Let's say, assuming you already found a bug to work on, you have assigned yourself a bug. How can we work on a bug? What I find mostly is that OpenStack developers, they use reading systems. This is why I think Ubuntu in particular is very friendly to OpenStack. Of course, there are people from SUSE community, from the Fedora community, especially Red Hat. They use their own system. But I think I would say 60% of the development user use Ubuntu machines. Of course, you have your own choice. This is not limited. And then there's different ways to work on a bug. There is you can use a KVM to spin up a machine. Anyone heard about Vagrant? Vagrant is very nice. You just spin up a VM and it's just right there for you. Let's see. Vagrant. I think they have some other there's some other product. But this is how easy you can spin up a VM. Just 2 lines. And then after the VM is up, you just Vagrant SSH. Then you will be in that VM. You can configure it as whatever you want. And this is good for development systems. And of course, VMware, they have Workstation and Fusion. I'm not sure this is a Linux convention. Not too many people. I am involved with the VMware community. I do have a VMware Workstation, but one bad thing I find out is that my VMware Workstation is an older one. It's version 8, and it does not support 1404. There's some hard way I find is that I tried to spin up a 1404 Linux machine on my Workstation 8, and then I see crazy behavior. Now, actually, I find out is that version 8 does not support 1404, but it is not a problem. Another 2 things that we need to look at is DevStack and RDO. Usually, when we configure OpenStack in a production environment, we use different server. But limited if we have a developer, we don't have that many resources. And even if we have that much resources, it's more convenient if we can configure OpenStack in just one single machine. They have, let's say, DevStack is very good. I use DevStack more often. DevStack is a community. You can spin up. This is very nicely describe how it to work. They just get clone, and then you just run the script, and then later on you'll be able to start, and then you will have a virtual machine with OpenStack running to work on. And of course, depending on the project you work on, you will have add-ons. But you can easily Google your particular project. Let's say if you work on Neutron, if you Google with the keywords DevStack and Neutron, then you will have tons of information for you to see how to configure a machine. Although I have, at least this is my problem, is that even though there are instructions to specify the environment, sometimes it's not that straightforward, and that's where IRC come into hand, and that you can ask different questions. Sometimes, especially my experience with the OpenStack community, is that it is not that easy. That's why I come up with this slides. Sometimes I really feel like this way. But the good thing is that don't be afraid. It is not that simple. There are customer support on that. It's a community is very friendly, so don't worry about that. That should not be a hindrance. And then this is some of the, of course, RDO. RDO is the CentOS Fedora Red Hat version of DevStack. I don't use it that much, but the same idea is that you can, in a single machine or in one, you spin up one development environment, you can do your changes and test your changes. This is not something specific, and then fixing the problem is depending if you have a low-hanging fruit. Fixing the bug, like in my case, I just have to take away 2 white spaces, and that's my fix. Sometimes the fix is just like that, but still, after the fix, the problem comes is that you have to do unit testing in your local machine. You just don't want to be a bad guy in the user community. Do some changes and check it in without testing. You can do that. No one will prevent you from doing that, but this is not good practice. And then there are few things, because mostly OpenStack is mostly Python based. We use Tux to run local testing. Usually the project itself, if you're working on, they have very well developed and well tested test scripts. So you just run this one command, it will just run it for you. And this article, I find it particularly useful, and it very detailed. It talks about how to do unit testing. It details the script. It tells you that you need to use pim to install Tux, and then these are the things you need to do, and then you can go to one problem with OpenStack for now is that Python has a version 2 or version 3. Some project is using version 3, some project is using version 2. So it depends, and sometimes depending on the project you're working on, you will have to, but usually the projects, they have good documentation on how to run unit tests. This you can go through it yourself, and this is something not difficult to do, and have good suggestion. Your unit test, this one has a nice screen layout, is that you will tell you how many tests being done and are you successful or not. Most likely, it's difficult for you to see because of the color, it's not easy to see, but you will see, this one is better. Ran 14 tests in how many seconds, and say, okay, so your unit test is good to go. So this is something that we can do. But what I find is that after the unit testing, committing the fix is the most difficult. But you will think, the bug is already fixed. Why is it so difficult to commit the fix? Well, let's take a look. Garrett is a system, a code review system that will trigger when you check in, you will run the continuous integration test and then run to see if your fix is good. The commit system, Garrett, is based on a voting system. For sure, you need two plus two. Let me phrase it the other better way. Plus 2 is 1. You need 2 of them before your fix can be merged to the master. And also, there are sometimes they will give you a -1. Like I said in here, -1 does not mean your fix is wrong, but there is something not quite right the format that they will give you a -1. Sometimes Jenkins, they will give you a -1 because when they run the unit test, it fails. I think I'm not 100% sure, but my understanding is that Jenkins also used DevStack to spin up machines to run the test. So using DevStack or RDO to run your unit test is also good. Sometimes the problem is not on your side. It's because of some other people's problem, the test fail. Then you have to follow up and find out what the problem is. Sometimes you can request to run the test again. So don't worry, you will most likely, when you do the first commit or first few commits, even a seasoned contributor to OpenStack, they will get -1 because they are of different reasons. People will say code review, I don't like to do that. One of my experiences there, as I forgot to mention on the release, there was one low-hanging fruit I picked up. The problem is that they will say, oh, there are 2 flags. It's being deprecated, not being used in OpenStack anymore. So I'll say, oh, good, that's the easiest fix. There's no logic change. I just need to take out the 2 flags, do a grab on the tree, whoever use it, just take out the code, no problem. So I did that, and I commit the code. I did the testing, they all tested well. I make my commit. Some reviewers say, oh, it's good to go. But there is one person, they give me a -1. He said, oh, no, this is not how you do things. For a deprecated flag, you cannot just take it out. You have to, in this release, mark it as deprecated. And then we will take it out on the next release. So for me, okay, then what I have to do is I have to do a rebase. I have to make all the, whatever changes I make is not good. So I have to do it all over again, and then I submit my changes, and then later on the next release, they get taken out. I didn't do it myself. But commit message is not as easy as you think. It's because they follow a very strict, and I recommend you to go through this document before we do the commit. This is a very good description on how to write commit messages. We're not going to go through this, but these are some of the main things. Don't mix white spaces. And I think this good thing about this article is that they have example of good commit message and bad, and explain to us why this is good, why this is bad. And sometimes you might get a -1 just because the format of the commit message does not adhere to a good commit message. So they will say, oh, redo your commit message. And one thing is that later on we'll go through is that because of Jenkins, the change ID is very important. We will try to keep the changes because if they're later on, or some will say you're fixed, you need to make additional changes that will be good, then you will check in with the same new change ID so that your fixes will be in the sequence in the log. And I highly recommend we go through this if you do a commit, to go through this first before you really commit your fix. I think this is something good about OpenStack is that they have this sandbox for us to play with before we really do. This is something very safe, and I think we should be able to go through this here and try to see if you have your laptop, you can also play with it. The URL is on the slide, but this is trying to try to play with a grid, do a commit. So see this for me. I already download Git and Git review. So Git clone. Let's see where am I first. CD. No, I don't have an OpenStack. Git clone HTTPS. Fat fingers, OpenStack, dev sandbox, good. Hope it's right. No. See, it's simple, it's fast. And this, you have this directory, cd sandbox. We have all this. What we're going to, actually, this is I did it once. So this is very nice. I wish I know about this when I have my first check-in. I didn't, and then I have to learn it the hard way. So now we are there. Let's follow the instruction. See what I have now. Config this. This is done by the sandbox. This is I never, because I just download Git. I don't have anything. So I need to git config user name for me git config, not configure. Git config user mail. Actually, there is a story about this vClouder beer thing. I like to drink beer. So beer is one thing, and my last name is Chow. So when most of the joke people talk about me is they call me Chowder. And I like food. So when I pick a username on Twitter, I would say, and I work on virtualization, so initially I call myself V Chowder and beer. But later on, after I work on the virtualization somewhat, the cloud come into place. Say, oh, there's good nice things, and myself from Chowder, I changed my username to be Clouder. And that's how I've been using this for a long time on most of the social media, on Twitter, on GitHub, on even I open a Gmail account with this. Just do that. The next thing is very important for me. I have been working on Linux for a long time, but I never forget to learn Emacs. And for Git, the default editor is Emacs. The very first time I make a commit, I have a Emacs screen in front of me. I don't know what to do. Because for me, the most difficult thing is I can do the insert, but I don't know how to get out of Emacs. And I have to call my wife and say, hey, how do I get out? So this is very important for me that I must do this on a new system. I need to change to VI. Let's see, VI. I don't use VIM2, I'm an old school, just VI is good enough for me. So let's say git config. This is what I have. This is done for me by the sandbox. So I have configured my username, my email, and the editor. Let's just follow along. This, I'm not sure if we need to do this, but just follow the instruction. We'll do it now. Let's say, no, let's skip that. Just do a git checkout. New branch. This is checking out from the sandbox. We're not checking out from any tree from GitHub. New branch. So change new branch. And let's follow along cat. First file. Is my first change set for OpenStack. Well, you can type it anything you want. No F. Okay, say git status. I have one, but I need to add that. So git add dash A. No. Git status. Now I have one new file. So it's easy. So let's say make change and git commit. So this wrong typing. How come it didn't change? Someone have to help me out here. So we need to write a good commit message. This file fixes a big problem. I think what they recommend in the article is that you have one line that is within 50 characters to describe what the big problem is. Then you describe what's been changed. Add one new file so that the problem is fixed. This is a bad commit message. Actually, it doesn't really tell other people what it is, but let's keep it for now. One thing I forgot to mention is that writing a commit message, you have to say, this is fix bug. This is a keyword, very important. Let's say I request, I work on bug 1, 2, 3, 4. This is bug fix. And there are a few keywords that you need to put on too, because if my fix change, I will say API, say API impact. Of course, if you change API, there's also a doc impact. These are the very keywords that we need so that the API, the group will know that this bug, there was an API impact that they need to log on. Doc impact means whenever you have check-in, affect existing documentation. So the documentation group has to take a look too. And sometimes there is stack impact. If your fix has security impact, let's say your fix may be good, but it will introduce some security hole, then you need to put this in, or your fix is fix some security bug, then you put all these three. This will flag Jenkins or a Garrett system to inform the other group that whatever you have changed, the fix has all this impact, so that they will follow up on that. And then I think the change ID should be given to me. Let's see what it is. And how do I save and get out? Is it Control X? Control X and Y. Enter. Thank you so much. I thought I changed my editor. So I make a commit with a commit message, but we're not done. Git status. It will say nothing. Nothing to commit. But the most important is that after you do the commit, we type in this important command. It's git review. I'm going to type in git review, but my command is going to fail. It's not going to work. So see if you can figure out what went wrong. Git review, see, it's going to fail. Okay, ask me, yes. Garrett username. What's wrong? Just give me a trace back. Try again with this, it suggests, okay, the trace back. We don't know where your Garrett is. But this, let's see, they should know. So there is a git view, git review. Anything wrong with this?
I think it's that you're missing the Garrett.
Sorry?
If you do get remote -b,
Yeah.
you're missing the Garrett.
Yeah.
Which is the git review -s.
Let's see. Let's do this. Right, but
Yeah, that's when instead of the Garrett remote branch create, that's why it's kind of a vague error, right? It says where's your Garrett, it doesn't know what your Garrett remote branch is.
Well, that makes you type of Garrett.
actually, this is not my biggest problem. It does know where it is, but there is one thing I'm missing that I have not done. Let's get it out. Let's go to, where should I go? This is the review. Is it review OpenStack? Review, say, let's sign in. This is where the review is. One thing I have not done is that there is one thing we need to know. Settings. SSH public key. My laptop is not set up. I don't have the key. That's why it's not allowing me to do that. These are some of the things that might be frustrating when we contribute to OpenStack. This is the little things. It's not the difficult things to do, but just that we don't know the flow. We're not doing it as a second nature. So we need to figure out. But let's say if looking at these traceback and these things, even though if I do this one get review.s, it might not necessarily tell you what really happens, and this is where Google comes into place. I think Google is the most common or most well accepted search engine. I don't think any people will use Bing as the search engine. Even Yahoo, I think, find it not very friendly to use, but anyway, this is a side comment. That's not important. But this is where search engine, internet search engine is good for us. If we want to contribute to OpenStack and we find a problem, we just have to say, key in the right word, try and error, say, let's say we can say, cannot connect to Garrett. Then you will try to find out what exactly what is wrong. And for me at this time, I think I need to pull out a cheat sheet and to create myself an SSH key. So actually, to do that is not that difficult. Let's say usually when for us, let's say cd.ssh. There is a .ssh in Ubuntu, but I need to generate SSH tgen -t RSA. You can Google it, RSA. Enter file, which to say, just take the default. Okay, this one is A. Now, before I only have known host, but now there are two files for me. This is what I need to do, is that I need to cat id RSA pub dot pub, and then let me put this away first, and then I need to copy this and go to a net key. paste. Yeah. Now I should be able to, let's see, give it some time. Usually it might not be that fast, I'm sure. Let's see, go back. CD sandbox. Oh, OpenStack sandbox. Let's do the review again. Git review. See if this will work this time because I added the key. I think this time it's okay because what I see is that I have a number given to me. This is the number, and this when you do the commit, this is generated for you. Then we just click.
It also created the Gary as well. That's what it's
Yeah, let's go there and take a look. Copy. See, this is what I have committed. And this is, you can see the reviewer. In this special case, this is Jenkins, Nimble Storage, and EMC are Upsilon. Is the reviewer. See, Jenkins give me a +1. For me, good to go. Nimble Storage say, no, not good. Then I need to find out what it is. This is one example. This sandbox is very nice. See, we can play around with it. You can, if you have a successful check-in with this sandbox, then you can do your regular check-in for the regular bug fix. Then you feel more comfortable. Let's see. This is the change ID. This is important. Let's see, because this is my commit message that I have typed in earlier. And what else can we get from here? This is the workflow. There's so many things we need to look at, but this sandbox is a very nice tool for us to get used to the commit process of the workflow. So the key thing for me to overcome the barrier to contribute to OpenStack is not really the bug fixes, it's the process that we are not familiar with. If we are familiar with the commit process, I think it will make us more easy to commit to OpenStack. And see, I'm not sure. That's because I think this is only a test. When you do this, I think it's recommended by the web page that we abandon this change. I'll get back to it later. But this is something, and demo time is a sandbox, play with it. And this is what I have. So like I said, OpenStack community is particularly friendly to the first time. If you identify yourself as a first-time committer, people is going to help you out and then going to give you advices. Trust me, they are really friendly. And if you do not trust me, challenge what I'm thinking and be a first-time committer and see if people are friendly to you. You can just come back and say, oh, they're not friendly to me. But don't feel discouraged because, like I said in this slide, you got nothing to lose except time. But if you start contributing to OpenStack, well, remember this slide, and it's helping me out tremendously. In fact, let's see, on my Twitter, I put that as my background, just to remind me that I need to stay focused and not to give up and try to continue my journey to the cloud. And that's all I have today. Is there any questions, comments? Is it helpful? I hope you go back and start contributing. You got nothing to lose. The worst thing you get is -1. But, thank you.